Welcome back to the Jon Krawczynski Show. He's Jon Krawczynski from The Athletic. I'm Jim Suhan from TalkNorth.com and the Star Tribune. We have a lot to talk about today. A lot of basketball, maybe some non-basketball. John, start us off here. Just what it was like to be in the arena the last couple of days with everything that's going on in our city.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the most, I'm trying to think of even the right word, just the weirdest feeling and vibe that I've had in that arena probably that I can remember. I mean, you know, I think Monday night's game against the Warriors was a little bit more of a normal atmosphere, but Sunday was so weird. Nobody wanted to be there. It felt like the fans didn't want to be there. The players didn't want to be there. Coaches, like everybody was distracted. And then you saw what happened. I mean, the Wolves, of course, they had been playing poorly prior to that game, but 26 turnovers, not scoring 100 points for the first time in 104 games. Just everything about it was like there is no description for any kind of normalcy here. And even like I said it, kind of when I wrote about, even the boos of Draymond Green were kind of half-hearted. And so it was certainly like everyone was grasping for that reality and trying to get back to some semblance of normalcy, but it was well beyond anyone's reach in that game, and just kind of just overall, I think everyone got through it, and now we're going to try and march forward a little bit. But I've never been a part of anything like that, like it was on Sunday, Jim.
One of the things I really like about the NBA is I feel like it's probably the most prominent. It's the largest men's sport in America, where you feel like something like this happens, people will say what they'll actually say things you want to hear. They'll say things that are good-hearted. They'll say things that are sensitive to the situation without looking over the shoulders. And if a tragedy like this is going to happen, having Chris Finch and Steve Kerr as the leaders of the teams, having this group of athletes in the Wolves locker room who have some sensitivity to what's happening in their community, at least if you're going to deal with a tragedy, at least we were dealing with good people handling it as well as they possibly could.
Yeah, I thought Chris Finch and Steve Kerr both were striking the right tone and setting the right tone in their pregame remarks. I thought Steve Kerr was great because he has been a frequent critic of Donald Trump, and I wondered if he was going to just kind of open up, on the administration, on what he was seeing, and be really, really critical of what was going on. And actually, he didn't. He was much more kind of speaking at a higher level about misinformation and division within the media, about just kind of overall the tenor of the feeling of just human relations in 2026. And I thought they were really poignant words. But I also thought that him taking that angle and that approach really allowed Chris Finch and the Timberwolves to more lead the way. This was their city. This is happening in their backyard, in our backyard. And so I think Steve Kerr wanted Finch to kind of have the podium, so to speak. And, Chris Finch was incredible in what he was saying. His voice was shaking. He had tears in his eyes. You could see that he was genuinely affected by what was happening. And so I think that when someone speaks with that kind of emotion, and Finch is not an overtly political person, he does not use that platform to kind of preach whatever ideology that he has, or kind of wage war against the others or whatever it is. And so for him to come out and be so emotional and so vulnerable and so raw, I just thought it was really impactful in what he said. Some of the players were a little bit more reserved. I mean, they certainly shared their feelings and talked about things a little bit, but it wasn't like kind of really in depth. And that's okay. That's up to them. what they want to do and what they don't want to do. But I thought Finch and Kerr were outstanding, Finch in particular, with just the leadership and the vulnerability and the humanity that he showed.
This is the Jon Krawczynski Show. This is TalkNorth.com. Best way to listen to the show is to subscribe to your favorite podcast app. The Jon Krawczynski Show is one of our shows that we also do via YouTube. You can find the shows there. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studio. We're presented to you by Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood. Maybe we'll get back to real life topics in a little bit, but we might as well transition to basketball at this point. Let's just start with Anthony Edwards' foot. Do you think this is going to be a continuing problem for him?
I think it's nagging, Jim. He was kind of a late scratch on Monday night against the Warriors, and I think that certainly there was some discomfort that he was working with, but also I do think that he and the team probably looked at Golden State not playing any of its guys, no Steph Curry, no Draymond Green, no Al Horford, and obviously no Jimmy Butler with what he's out with, and maybe they looked at it in a situation where there are 4 games in 5 nights, with a back-to-back coming at Dallas Wednesday, at home against OKC on Thursday, and probably saw a chance to rest a little bit there as well. But I do think that it's a kind of a toe infection. It's actually been kind of described as similar to if you had a bunion, like just the discomfort that you deal with something like that. And so it's not serious. It's not something that kind of jeopardizes him missing a long period of time or anything like that, but it does affect him, I think, especially, Jim, when he's playing heavy minutes and a lot of games in a short amount of time. And so I just think that they looked at this opportunity to take a rest against a severely shorthanded team and probably snap a long losing streak. And they think they were just kind of trying to save him for a couple of tougher games later this week.
With him out, Bones Highland seems to play pretty well. Is there any chance of Bones actually figuring out how to play alongside of him?
That's, it's funny. Chris Finch said last night after the game, he said, I told Bones that you're allowed to play well when Anthony Edwards plays too. And it was kind of a bit of a dry sense of humor for him, but it does hold a little bit. And I think that it makes sense in a way, because Bones is really trying to kind of just be one of the guys and defer when Ant is out there. And what they need Bones to be doing is to be attacking and to be aggressive and to look for his own shot, get downhill, get into the paint, drive and kick, hit the open threes. And I just think that when Anthony Edwards is not playing, he feels like, hey, there's a void of shots. I'm gonna fill a lot of that void. I have more license to be a scorer, and so what he has to be able to do is he's got to be able to look at the game when Ant is out there as still an opportunity for him to be really aggressive, because that's when he's the most dangerous to his opponent. And when he is kind of passive and just trying to run the show, even though he's trying to be a really good teammate and get others involved and make sure that Ant is getting his touches and all that, he still has to be able to look at the defense and say, I'm going to be in attack mode. And I think that has not happened enough in those times when Anthony Edwards is active, and it's just essential that he does that. When he is not scoring, they basically only have Naz Reid and no one else, and so they need off the bench, and so they need Bones Highland to be a guy that scores 10 points, 12 points, 15 points, in the time that he gets. And, seeing him do it on Monday night, even against a very depleted Warriors team, I think is a step in the right direction.
Well, this leads to the long discussion. What might they go get at the trade deadline? What names are realistic? Because listen, we've heard so many stupid rumors over the last couple of months, and so many deals that can't possibly happen. Put it in perspective: what could happen? What kind of player could they get? And is a name like Kobe White, worth discussing?
I mean, yeah, it's you look at the landscape right now, and the whole trade market seems to be clogged right now. There's only been one real trade as we're recording this on Tuesday morning across the league. There's just not been a lot of movement at all. It's a deadline driven league. So I think I was talking to a couple executives on other teams yesterday, and they do expect that the market is going to get moving here as we get into the final week before the February 5th trade deadline. So I do think that there's just a little bit of procrastinating going on out there, but also I do think that a lot of teams are holding their water until we know exactly what Giannis is going to do in Milwaukee. Like, there's just, you don't want to make a smaller trade, a few days early, and then it becomes really clear that Giannis Antetokounmpo is available and you have squandered any of your assets to go get him. So that's not just for the Timberwolves, that affects the Timberwolves in two ways. One is, if Giannis is really available, they're going to be trying to get in on him. I think it's unlikely that they would get a deal done, but they would try. But two is, if you are one of those teams that says, hey, we maybe don't have the assets for Giannis, but we want to get other deals done, there's just nobody out there that's really willing to pull the trigger on more quote unquote minor deals. But I do think in the end, by the time the February 5th trade deadline does come around, I do believe that the Wolves will get some sort of deal done for a bench scorer. And Kobe White is realistic to at least talk about. I do think that there are conversations that have happened with the Bulls, and the Timberwolves certainly like Kobe White. It's a matter of, can they agree on some sort of compensation for him? Would the Bulls take more minor contracts and just kind of get off of an expiring salary? I don't know that they would, but I think then you're also looking at Ayo Dosunmu. You're also looking at Trey Jones. I think Tyus Jones is another name that has been bandied about with the Timberwolves a little bit as a more of a buy low guy, because I don't think that he has a ton of value on the trade market right now. So he might be able to be had for something fairly minimal. Guys, other guys that you have heard, like Ben Mathurin, Malik Monk, like a few of those guys, I just don't know that there's a deal that really makes sense right now. Things could change, but I still think at the end of the day, when the dust settles on February 5th, the Wolves will have some other player on their bench that can give them a little bit more depth. And, who that is, we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Let's continue the trade discussion. We want to let you know we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio.
Scott for Aquarius Home Services, wishing you a warm and cozy Happy New Year. Not so cozy? Still relying on that furnace that's, well, not so reliable? Here's the fix for 2026. Enjoy no payments and no interest for 6 months on a new high-efficiency whole home heating and cooling system. Enjoy today and don't pay until this summer. Schedule your free estimate today at AquariusHomeservices.com. Financing based on credit approval. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
And we also want to know more about Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood.
If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than our good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they've got you covered with two great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to lexusofwayzata.com or lexusofmaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today.
Thanks as always to TSR Injury Law, our first big sponsor on this program. They helped us get where we are today. We maintained a relationship and a friendship because we trust them. If you are ever injured, just call 612-TSR-TIME. 612-TSR-TIME. They will take good care of you. They will not charge you unless they win your case, and they win a lot of cases. They're also good people. 612-TSR-TIME. Tyus Jones has always been a good player in this league. Is he still that kind of a player? Is he still somebody you would bring in and say, okay, this guy makes us a lot better? Or is he just more of somebody who's just a backup point guard at this point?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking about that with another executive on another team yesterday, just kind of like looking at all of the options that the Timberwolves might be considering going into this trade deadline. And I flat out asked one of these guys that I trust, and And I said, look, what do you think of Tyus at this point in his career? Is he still a viable player? And because it didn't go very well in Phoenix, Orlando, he seems to be marginalized a little bit. And so the guy that who doesn't have any existing relationship with Tyus just said, you know what? It wasn't very long ago. It was like 2 years ago that he was right at the top of the league in assist to turnover ratio. You look at what happened in Phoenix last season, and I think that was just a team that was completely off of its rocker in terms of chemistry, in terms of all the things going on, because they're playing much better this year, even though they got less talented with Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal leaving. So I just think there was a bad mix of guys back then, and not blaming one player or the other. It just didn't fit together. And so Tyus is a guy who needs to be on a team that is cohesive, that gets, that everyone is kind of rowing in the same direction. And so, and then the Orlando situation that he's in right now is just funky. It's a team that had a lot of high expectations going in, but some really, kind of ball dominant young stars in Banchero, Wagner, guys like that. And I think they're just still trying to figure each other out. And so, he's been marginalized there a little bit as well. And so I don't think he has a ton of trade value, but, this person I was talking to said, I wouldn't give up on Tyus. I think in the right situation, he could be really helpful. Now, is that here? I get the impression, Jim, that this team needs a more of a scorer, than even, I do think a point guard would help. I mean, certainly they've had turnover issues, but let's face it, if they bring in Tyus Jones or they bring in another backup point guard, he will help during games, but he's not playing at the end of the game when Anthony Edwards is the point guard in the last 5 minutes. And so, exactly what he would bring would be interesting. I think he would help immeasurably in, just kind of maturity, taking care of the ball, running the offense, being a thinking man's player out there, essentially being like the younger version of Mike Conley. And because Mike is just, not that way anymore at 38 years old. And so it would be a worthwhile investment, I think, because it wouldn't take much to get him and he could help some. I think there are probably other players that would fit a more acute need in scoring, but if they can't make any other deals and Tyus Jones is the guy that's coming here at the end of the day, I'd feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, I would too. And you said exactly what I was thinking was, I think at his worst, he's kind of a Mike Conley type player. The way Conley has been a contributor to this team the last few years, I would take that. It might not be the perfect fit, but right now they're 6 deep. They need they need a 7th player.
Yeah, they do. I mean, and whether that is a Tyus Jones or a Kobe White or whoever, or whether maybe that's Bones Highland becoming more reliable. Maybe that's Terrence Shannon Jr. coming back from injury. But some of those situations, especially the Shannon one, that seems like, you're really crossing your heart and hoping that this comes together. Whereas I think that they need to go find someone who they at least have a reasonable expectation that, this guy can be a consistent contributor for them and who can slot right in, play 20 to 25 minutes in a night, in a Nickeil Alexander-Walker type role and give them real production. And that's the challenge that Tim Connolly has faced right now, is finding that player who can just step right in and give them that, because you're right, they are 6 to 6.5 deep, and that's not going to cut it, over the course of the rest of this regular season and even into the playoffs.
So of the true bench players right now, Bones, Dillingham, Berenger, Clark, Shannon when he comes back, which of those players do you think has the best chance of being a real impact player by the end of this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bones has the highest ceiling right now, Jim. I mean, there are going to be nights where the shot isn't falling or where he's not playing as well, but the energy that he brings, we were talking to guys in the locker room after the game against the second game against the Warriors, and they all just remarked about how the pace picks up, the energy picks up, everything picks up when he's in the game. And that's why I do think, Jim, that over these next couple of weeks, like I think that Chris Finch has to look long and hard at having Bones be the first guard off the bench and not the second. And, Mike Conley is an unbelievable leader. It has done amazing, amazing things for the Timberwolves, and he remains incredibly valuable. But on a night in and night out basis, the role that they need him to play is not the role that he's capable of playing regularly these days. And so I do think that Chris Finch has an unbelievable amount of trust in Mike Conley. But I also think that Mike Conley's ability to hit his ceiling is much lower now than it certainly was last year, 2 years ago, or whatever. And I think that Bones, there might be a little more volatility with him and a little more variance, but just the simple fact that, hey, maybe tonight is another Bones night. When that happens, man, this team is so much better. And it just seems like it's easier to envision Bones giving you real impactful, competitive, offensive-minded minutes over the course of a game right now than it is Mike. And so I think that Chris Finch has to look at some of those rotations and maybe try to maximize a little bit more out of Bones right now.
Next topic, would the Wolves trade Mike Conley? Would they feel obligated to keep him around? Would they feel obligated to put him in a positive situation, or do they just make a business decision and send him in whatever deal comes up? I'm going to ask John that next. First, I want to hear more about True Vision Institute.
True Vision Institute in Bloomington is the place to go. Go to truevision.com. If you are watching this on video, as we have been doing for a while here now, you do see that I have no glasses anymore. I know my social media avatar still has them. I'm old and I haven't gotten around to updating that. But I've been living life for well over a year, kind of coming on to 2 years this next summer, with LASIK surgery from True Vision. It's been a life-changing thing for me. And if you go to truevision.com, set up your free consultation, get in there, go through the steps that you need to take to get your examinations, to find out what the right vision correction methods are for you. They will walk you through everything. They will educate you on everything, and they will make you feel comfortable and at ease through the entire process. So go to truevision.com, tell them the Jon Krawczynski Show sent you, get in there, get going with it. And like me, you will be kicking yourself and saying, I should have done this 10, 15 years ago even. truevision.com.
Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line. You know them as sglambchops.com. They're sponsoring the Twitter question at the end of this show. What's going on at sglambchops.com?
Yeah, so if you go there and you put in the promo code JONK20 at sglambchops.com, you get 20% off anything that they have there. And when I tell you anything, I mean, it's really super high quality, incredibly comfortable, incredibly stylish clothing. I'm at Timberwolves games all the time, and the only thing that you see on the backs of people at Timberwolves games outside of like licensed Timberwolves gear is Lamb Chops clothing. That's how popular it is right now. That's how much a part of this basketball community Jordan and Craig and everyone at Lamb Chops has become, and they are super invested in it. They want to be a part of this community. You see them courtside at Wolves and Lynx games. They're on the road with the team a lot. It's just really cool to see a couple of guys who are really big Wolves fans and Lynx fans, just like you guys are, and they make super cool stuff that you can wear to games, you can wear out in the North Loop on a Friday night, you can wear at home lounging around, watching on your couch as well. It's so versatile, it's so high quality, and it's affordable too. So go to Lamb Chops, sglambchops.com. The promo code is JONK20 for 20% off anything you can get at Lamb Chops.
So resetting the topic, will the Timberwolves allow personal feelings, their regard for Conley, their admiration for Conley's career to affect the kind of deal they do involving him?
I don't think they will, Jim. I do think that rightfully so, they want to be doing right by Mike Conley. He's earned that consideration. So I don't think that they would dump him to the Washington Wizards and have him kind of languish out there. My guess is if they were to move him to a less desirable location, there would probably already be some kind of agreement in place with his agents at CAA, who are, very, very good and very influential, to basically get some sort of buyout so he could hit the market, get to a team that has a chance to contend. Who knows? Maybe even come back here, on a buyout and do something that way. But, I also think that they know that they're in a position where they have a team that when it is right and when they are going, they can be as competitive as any team in the Western Conference. They really believe that. There's a lot of confidence that if they can get a few of their wrinkles ironed out, that they can be in really good shape for another deep playoff run. And so when you are in that position, windows open and close so quickly in the NBA that you just cannot play favorites. You can't be too sentimental about things. You can try to do things the right way, which I think is important and does kind of resonate with players and agents and around the league, but they also have to make sure that they're looking out for the best interests of the team. And so if they can get a real upgrade, and if Mike Conley is part of the calculus to make that happen, I think they'll really consider that. I do not think he's off the table for trading because that's just, this business is stone cold sometimes, and you just got to do what is right for the team right now. And it does not mean also to Jim, I want to be sure, it doesn't mean they have to trade Mike Conley. Maybe there is a way to supplement this roster and still have Conley here and still give him an opportunity to contribute. I think that they are considering those options as well, but this is not one of those cases of, man, we love Mike, he's such a good dude, so we're not going to trade him. I think that that's on the table for the Timberwolves as they look at their options going into the deadline.
All right, let's go big picture now. The Wolves were the best team in basketball from Thanksgiving through a certain point of January. Then they lose, 4 or 5 straight, whatever, 5 straight, before breaking that streak against a team that wasn't really trying to win. Is there any big picture to be had at this point? Do we have any idea what we're dealing with this team?
I will say this. I understand, and I think it's right for fans to be concerned about their level of play lately. I mean, they just have not been good enough. Even the comfortable win that they had over the Warriors on Monday night, I mean, they didn't play particularly well. Bones played well. Rudy played well. Dante was pretty good. But overall, collectively as a group, they didn't play well. It was just that the Warriors were so shorthanded and they were terrible as well. And so they have to turn a corner sometime. But I believe that this is a team that can turn that corner. Just before this losing streak, there were people nationally, and I agreed with them, that said that, man, they're playing so tough. They have so many different ways to beat you. They're so physical that this is a team that can go to the Western Conference Finals. This is the team that can contend in the West. And so I think all of that is in them. But Chris Finch said it again after the game on Monday night. He just he said the moods of this team are such that they ride a roller coaster. It just when they are down, it's down. And I think they were down these last 4 or 5 games. And so, but when they come out of it and when they are clicking and they're connected, they're a really hard team to beat. And so while they need help from a bench standpoint, I believe, I don't think that they are a lost cause. I think that a little bit of help, somebody that can score off the bench and give them a little more depth, really does make this team a formidable opponent. I honestly do believe that. And right now they are heavy legged. I just think that they're in a bit of a rut and a malaise. And if and when they come out of it, I think they'll still be right in the mix for home court advantage, for playoff success, for all of those things.
I just think it's incredible marketing by the NHL and the NBA to make us care about 82 regular season games that only determine seeding and home advantage. in leagues where seeding and home advantage don't necessarily mean that much.
Yeah, especially these days, Jim, in the NBA, I think, I think in the NHL, we've always seen road teams win in the playoffs a lot if a goalie gets hot or whatever. But the parity that is in the league now, I mean, it just shows that any team can go anywhere and win. Look at the Wolves Denver series 2 years ago, and how many road wins there were in that entire series, and so the Timberwolves rightfully have the confidence that if they get into a series against any team with Anthony Edwards, with Julius Randle, with Gobert defending, with Jaden, all these, that they can win that series. I think that the dangerous part about that, though, is that they think, doesn't matter for the 6 seed or the 2 seed, we can win. Well, it would be a lot better if you were the 2 seed and if you really locked in during this regular season and got to a point where you were in a stronger position. But you're right, like the average fan, I think, has a hard time processing 82 games. Every game they want, if they win, it's great. They're going to the finals, playing the parade route, and if they lose, fire everyone, trade everyone, and move on. And you just can't have that sort of mentality. There are too many games. The season is too long to do that. But that's why we are being able to do the show, is because people are so interested and they're so invested in it.
Is it even conceivable that the league would cut back at any point, on the regular season?
Yeah, I don't think so. They should. I mean, it should. I think it should be a 60-game season. Yep. There are a lot of other people say, 70 or 72 or
60,
something like that. I think 60 would be great because it would breathe more urgency into the season. It would reduce the amount of rest days that players take. It would, all of these things. But that would require a significant cutback in money in the pockets of the owners and the players. And last year at The Athletic, we did a kind of a survey of players, an anonymous survey. And one of the questions on it was, would you be in favor of fewer games in the regular season if it meant a smaller paycheck for you? And it was like 95% no. And these are the players who are going through this and who, are their bodies are banged up, all this stuff. But if they're like, no, I have a very short amount of time in my life to make big money. I want to make as much money as possible. And so they don't want it. The owners don't want it. And so, we're just going to keep going in this direction.
We tend to look at the top of the standings and who the Wolves are chasing. Then they have a losing streak, and you start looking who might be coming up behind them. What are the teams that are kind of in the middle of the pack or rising right now that might actually be of concern to the Timberwolves?
Yeah, when you look at it, kind of, it's really interesting to kind of look at the landscape of the league or of the West because, you look at the Lakers and they're still technically ahead of the Wolves. They keep on winning games, and I honestly don't know how they do it. I mean, obviously Luka's amazing and LeBron is really, really good, but they're just not a team that I'm overly concerned about in terms of the rest of their talent, their defensive problems. Maybe when Austin Reeves comes back, like that will change some things, but it's just not a team that scares me. The Warriors are going to free fall now without Jimmy Butler. They look like they're getting older, but the Clippers are the team that all of a sudden really looks feisty. I mean, they looked like they were dead at the start of the year. Like they were going nowhere. Everyone was, kind of just off of that team, including myself. And they've been winning every game lately. I still wonder about Kawhi Leonard being able to hold up over the course of a long season and if he will be able to stay healthy, but he's been amazing. Like he's been all-star caliber worthy, for the last 3 or 4 weeks at least. And they are now in 10th place. They're 21-24, which seems underwhelming, but I think it's like 13-4 in their last 17 or something like that. I mean, they are winning a ton of games. And so, I think that they are the one team that I look at and say, maybe, that's a team that you do watch and you worry about if Kawhi does stay healthy. I also am interested, Jim, in the Dallas game on Wednesday night. I'm going to be down there for it. And that Dallas is such a weird team because there are nights where they look really, really good, and then there are nights where they look terrible. And so you could end up losing a game like that to them, and you say, man, you lost to the Mavericks. They're way under 500. What a bad loss. But on certain nights, they can really be tough. And so there's a couple teams, but by and large, this kind of a notion that we had at the start of the season that the West was going to be 13 deep or 14 deep. I don't think it's that way. I mean, let's see here. Yeah, the Warriors are in the 8th seed at 26 and 22. Every other team behind them is under 500. And so the depth of the West has not been there. The quality of it at the top certainly is there with OKC and San Antonio and Denver and Houston and the Wolves and the Lakers and all these guys, but the depth isn't there, that we expected to see at the start of the year.
Let's get to our sglamtops.com Twitter question of the week.
Yeah, I'm going to pick one here from, this is a good one, for this week. Franklin Oliver says, do you anticipate the team or individual players making more public statements about ICE? I sure hope so. And I will say that I do think that fans have largely, from what I've been, at least fans kind of a certain side of this, have been disappointed in the lack of real forceful voices from the players during all of this saga. And, Anthony Edwards has not wanted to get into it. He said a little something on Sunday, but largely doesn't want to wade into these. Julius Randle was very thoughtful, but also made it clear, like, look, I'm not political. I don't get into this. I just hate to see a loss of life like it did. Dante DiVincenzo was also very thoughtful. Rudy Gobert was thoughtful. But the sort of the most, I think, not aggressive, but the most in-depth statement that we've seen has been from Karl Anthony Towns. And he's no longer here. And so I do think that there is a segment of Wolves fandom that really wants Anthony Edwards to be Karl Anthony Towns or Muhammad Ali, or like this very socially in tune, very socially conscious person who speaks eloquently, intelligently about very high minded political things. Or you might even say, this isn't political, this is life and death. Why are you not wading into it? But Ant is just not that guy. He is not interested in that. And he doesn't feel comfortable doing that. And so myself as a journalist, I'm always interested in what anyone has to say on any subject, and I want to hear what's important to them. But also, I'm not going to pressure them to be someone they're not. And I think it could come off as disingenuous if Ant tried to be that guy. And
what he doesn't want to do is sound like all the CEOs who put out a statement that said nothing.
Exactly right. Yep. If he's reading something and it falls flat, his heart isn't in it. And I understand Wolves fans who say, man, Ant, you've been here for 6 years. Like you see everything that we're going through. Can't you be there in the fight with us? I understand disappointment there, but I also think that those people who want that would not get what they wanted, even if he did engage in it. And so there are people like Kat who are really civic minded and really into it. Kat is also 30 years old compared to 24 for Ant. So maybe Ant eventually kind of broadens his horizons and thinks about those things, a little bit more. But at this point in his life, that's not for him. And so I'm just not going to force him into trying to do something and be something that he's not. These are very difficult things to do, to kind of put yourself out there and expose yourself to all sorts of criticism and things like that. And so he's just not going to do that. And if you're waiting for that, you're going to be waiting for a while.
Yeah. And I do appreciate Kat weighing in from
Yes.
afar. He's always been a good-hearted guy, as we've detailed on the show for years. Jon, give us a final thought. Once again, thanks to everyone who listens to TalkNorth.com and listens to the Jon Krawczynski Show. Check out the Viking Update Show that includes Jon. We have Russo, Lavelle, Roy, Smalley, Don Mitchell, Mark Rosen. We got a million good shows. So check out the network, and we do appreciate it.
Yeah, just a really big week here, Jim, coming up. They really scuffled the last couple of games, and not being able to beat the Warriors and the Bulls, kind of as part of a softer part of their schedule, I think does hurt them. But they still are, they're like a game and a half out of the 4 seed. And now it's at Dallas, it's Oklahoma City, it's a couple against Memphis, and it's at Toronto going into the trade deadline. And so we are entering a very, very important week of Timberwolves basketball that they need to start kind of coming out of this funk that they're in. But also we could be entering a period where some changes to the roster come here too, and really formulate things for the stretch run. And, it's just going to be interesting to see how they respond to it. And kind of get through and try to pull themselves out of the tailspin that they've been in.
Thank you, Jon. Appreciate it. Everybody be safe out there, please. We appreciate everybody who listens and watched. And hang in there. Rough times in Minneapolis, and we'll talk to you next week.